Well, Steve Deace is the guy to talk to. He's a syndicated radio talk show host in Des Moines, talking and listening to Iowa voters all the time. Steve, are they waiting to make up their minds?
I think there's a lot of people that are still waiting to make up their minds. And I think there's a lot of people that have made up their minds, but they're willing to make them up again.
Okay, well, Steve, is it a case if they're waiting because they just love all of their options and it's so hard to decide, or is it because they don't really like all their options?
I would have said 6 months ago it was the latter. I actually think this field of candidates has gotten demonstrably better over the last 6 months. And I hate to say this as a conservative, but you guys in the mainstream media that we rip all the time, you're partially to thank for it, because there's been so many debates. It's like the old phrase, iron sharpens iron. And the candidates have all gotten better to some extent over the last few months.
Yeah, well, I'll deal with that little shot you took at the media there. But tell me here, some of these debates, you're right, there have been so many. Has that kind of replaced that retail politics? Are people getting such a view of these candidates on TV over really months now that maybe they don't need to be shaking a lot of hands?
I think your observation is very astute, and I think there's a lot of longtime Iowa politicos that sort of regret that. And that's what's interesting about Ron Paul. He's the most unorthodox and quirky candidate in the race, but he's also got the most conventional campaign. He's by far got the best ground game in Iowa. His team has done the best job at retail politics.
Yeah, and I was talking to you during the commercial break about the things that stood out to you last night, and we talked about some of the highlights that people talk about in the moment about Tim Tebow and all that stuff, but really what stood out to you, clearly Michelle Bachmann was on the offensive last night, and you think she did damage to two candidates.
I thought she did damage to both Newt Gingrich on Fannie and Freddie and Ron Paul on foreign policy, according to a lot of the response that I saw in my own analysis. And I thought Newt Gingrich was very strong after those initial attacks from Michelle. I thought he was very strong in the second hour, particularly on an issue that Iowans care a lot about, which is the courts and the separation of powers. But Michelle, I thought, did damage to those two candidates. And the debate for Ron Paul, it reminded me of the debate right before the straw poll where Rick Santorum sort of deconstructed Ron Paul on being soft on Iran. And I thought Michelle did the same thing and was even tougher on him. And I think those answers probably cost Ron Paul a victory in the Iowa straw poll. He only lost by 150 votes or so. And I think it may cost him some points come January 3rd.
All right, I got 30 seconds here. Do you actually endorse on your radio program?
I have in the past. I've not yet endorsed a candidate. I likely will tell the audience who I'm going to vote for, though, before January 3rd.
All right, how soon you think you'll make a choice? Because you were given a lot of credit for Mike Huckabee's success in Iowa, speaking so favorably about him on your radio program.
Well, I'm having a tough decision like everybody else. I mean, last time I thought we had one great candidate. This time I think we have several really good ones.
All right, Steve Deace, good to talk to you. Hope we can get you back on. Thanks so much, and you have a good weekend, all right?
You too.